On February 28, 2025, at approximately 6 p.m., Chico police officers were dispatched to a reported shooting in a parking lot near East 2nd Street and Wall Street in Chico, California. When officers arrived, they located a 43-year-old man suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. The scene was quickly secured while medical personnel treated the victim. He was transported to a nearby hospital for emergency care. Based on early witness accounts and investigative leads gathered at the scene, officers identified 43-year-old Michael Oxley of Chico as the primary suspect in the shooting and attempted murder. With this information, investigators began searching for Oxley's location. The following day, on March 1st, officers tracked him down to an apartment complex in the 1200 block of Nord Avenue. Due to the seriousness of the crime and reports suggesting Oxley might still be armed, Chico Police deployed a full tactical response to the area. The Crisis Response Unit, SWAT, a trained negotiator, a paramedic, and a drone operator were all assigned to the unfolding situation. Upon arrival, officers saw Oxley exiting one of the buildings within the complex. They immediately identified themselves as police and ordered him to get on the ground. Oxley did not comply. Instead, he ran and reached into a bag he was carrying. Concerned that he could be arming himself, officers deployed multiple distraction devices designed to emit loud bangs and bright flashes to disorient a suspect without lethal force. Despite these efforts, Oxley continued fleeing and entered another building within the complex. He retreated into his apartment, forcing officers to shift from a direct encounter to a containment strategy. A perimeter was quickly established around the apartment building, and the complex was placed on lockdown to protect residents and keep Oxley contained. Officers prepared to serve a search warrant as they continued attempts to communicate with Oxley. The situation had already escalated from a follow-up investigation into an armed standoff inside a residential building. The next phase of the encounter would push the officers deeper into the apartment complex as Oxley continued to evade commands and pose a significant threat. As officers attempted to serve the search warrant inside the apartment complex, the situation escalated once again. Oxley confronted officers in a hallway, armed with a handgun equipped with an extended magazine and holding a can of bear spray. Officers issued multiple commands for him to drop the weapon and surrender, but he ignored them. His refusal to comply, combined with his position inside the building, made the encounter especially dangerous. In response, officers deployed additional distraction devices in an attempt to create distance and reduce the threat. Rather than surrender, Oxley fled once more, this time toward the parking structure connected to the building. Officers continued their pursuit while maintaining a perimeter around the entire complex to prevent his escape or entry into residential areas. Oxley moved into the parking garage and ascended to the second floor. An officer positioned outside the structure saw him, issued commands to stop, and attempted to contain him. However, Oxley continued moving upward. He eventually reached the top floor of the parking structure, where officers maintained a wide perimeter and repeated instructions for him to drop the gun. At this stage, Chico Police deployed a drone to safely observe Oxley's movements from above. The drone recorded Oxley seated on the top level of the parking structure, holding the extended magazine handgun between his legs with both hands. His finger was on or near the trigger, confirming that he remained armed and in control of the weapon. For the next 2 hours, a police negotiator worked tirelessly to de-escalate the situation, engaging Oxley in continuous dialogue. The negotiator maintained a steady, calm tone, reminding him to stay seated, to keep his hands visible, and to cooperate so that no one, himself included, would be harmed. Every line spoken was aimed at slowing the momentum of the crisis and guiding it toward a peaceful resolution. But the difficulty of the task became clear almost immediately. Oxley repeatedly expressed a troubling intent. He stated that he wanted to harm himself, not directly, but by provoking officers into shooting him. This disclosure shifted the emotional weight of the negotiation. What had started as a standoff now presented the added dimension of a potential suicide by cop scenario, requiring officers to double their efforts to keep the dialogue alive and the tension as low as possible. As part of their attempt to maintain transparency and prevent sudden surprises from escalating the situation, officers informed Oxley that lighting equipment would be brought into the area. The top floor of the parking structure was dimly lit, and visibility was a critical factor for both officer safety and the clarity of communication. They reassured him that he did not need to be alarmed when he saw the lights being positioned or activated. Despite their openness, Oxley grew increasingly restless. His body language shifted throughout the negotiation. Small adjustments in posture, subtle but concerning movements of his hands, and repeated glances toward different angles of the structure. Each movement caused a ripple of tension among the officers watching him from below. The negotiator continually reminded him to remain still and seated, but as the night progressed, Oxley's compliance fluctuated. The standoff stretched well into the early morning hours, the air thick with silence, broken only by the negotiator's steady communication and the occasional crackle of radio traffic. Officers remained positioned at strategic points, maintaining visual contact and staying ready for any sudden changes. Their objective remained the same: resolve the situation without anyone getting hurt. At approximately 12:30 a.m., nearly 2 full hours after negotiations began, Oxley suddenly rose to his feet while still holding the extended magazine handgun. The act immediately heightened the danger. His movements suggested increasing instability, and he ignored multiple instructions to sit back down. Officers watching from lower levels could see the tension building in his posture. Faced with a rapidly deteriorating situation, officers attempted one final effort to stop Oxley without using deadly force. They deployed less lethal beanbag rounds, carefully aimed to halt his movement and give the negotiator another opening to calm him. But the moment the beanbag rounds struck, the situation exploded into violence. Oxley raised the handgun and fired toward the officers positioned at the bottom of the ramp leading into the parking structure. In an instant, the volatile standoff shifted into an active gunfight. Under direct fire and facing a lethal threat, Officer Number 6 and 3 other officers responded with their service weapons. What had been hours of negotiation transformed in seconds into a critical, life-or-death, split-second decision driven solely by the need to survive incoming gunfire. After the gunfire ceased, officers approached with extreme caution, following tactical protocols to ensure there were no remaining threats. The top floor of the parking structure was still dim, illuminated only by the newly placed lights and the flashing strobes of police vehicles below. Officers maintained full coverage, communicating through radios and hand signals as they methodically moved forward. Once they reached Oxley, they immediately secured his firearm, still equipped with the extended magazine, to eliminate any further risk. A certified SWAT medic on site examined Oxley and confirmed that he was deceased. The handgun he used during the confrontation was recovered, photographed, and later cataloged as evidence. With the immediate threat neutralized, officers conducted a systematic search of the entire parking structure and the surrounding areas. Every corner, ramp, and hiding place was checked to ensure no additional dangers remained. Throughout the lengthy standoff, no residents, bystanders, or responding officers were injured. The sole injury linked to Oxley's actions was sustained by the earlier shooting victim from February 28th, who received medical attention and ultimately survived. By the conclusion of the investigation, All available evidence painted a clear, chronological picture of the multiple stages of the standoff. The footage and reports collectively confirmed the escalating threat posed by Oxley at every key moment and demonstrated how officers attempted repeatedly to resolve the situation peacefully before being forced to respond to gunfire.